Hello. Hi. Uh, Before I start yapping for probably the next 10-20 minutes, I just want to let you guys know that, yes, I am very much aware that I am uh, an irrelevant, small, channel, but, exposing won't hurt, okay? And I feel like I really need to do this for my, own sake too, because this specific problem have been eating on my brain for the past month now, and I couldn't focus at school. I've been neglecting my own health. I've been crying myself to sleep for um yeah, over a month now, and I don't know. I don't feel like myself anymore, and I guess this is my way of coping. So yeah. Okay, so this is a story between me and an ex boyfriend, if I can even call him that at this point. My name is Masaru, Sarv, Adi, or whatever. I am a voice actor, aged 16. As per my ex boyfriend, let's call him Employ. I will be telling his name at the end of the video to let you guys be aware of his existence. Not to shame him, but definitely so you guys could also take precautions. It started back in 2023. I was 12, about to turn 13, and he was 15, going to 16. Yikes! A close friend introduced Employ and I to one another. If you've been following my YouTube for a while now, you'd know that I've got a little quirky voice acted gacha series called Downburst going on. Downburst have been a thing has been a thing for 4 years now, and the only episode we've ever released really is a rundown, rushed animation, clearly made by a kid. After that, we've only met crickets, mostly because the voice actors we've casted showed unprofessionalism and just overall inappropriate behavior toward children, may I say? Um, and I kinda spiraled into depression after many attempts at committing due to countless bullying and death threats I received from the former cast. But why did I bring Downburst up, you may ask? Well, Employ first joined my series as a voice actor. That was when I was first exposed to him. Employ at the very beginning have always been peculiar in a way I couldn't properly explain. He was distant, but when conversations get even slightly adjacent to something he inherently geeks about, he'll make sure he'd be there 100%. It took time before I gathered the courage to talk to him, but once we got more acquainted with one another, I realized I was into him. At this point, I had already turned 13, he was still 15, and it took me until probably, let's say, 2023 to early 2024 before I took matters into my own hands. I confessed to him in January 2024, and it felt like we were dating immediately without any initiatives. He kept me a secret, didn't want to label us as anything deeper, but we were definitely doing stuff only people who I guess were a thing or people who are on a much deeper level than just friends would. I am talking constant I love yous, romantic banters, flirting, something almost close to sexting, but I was too scared to interact with him every time he does so, given my age. And of course, the infamous meetup every online relationship goes through. I was still 13 and he had already turned 16, let's say 3 months before meeting up on Valentine's Day 2024. I was very shy and quiet the entire day until an hour or two before he finally went home. He gave me too much PDA, even bought me a rose and referred to me as his boyfriend and the girl in the relationship. Which, by the way, turned me off so hard because why are we giving gender based labels to one another when we can just call ourselves boyfriends? So I felt pressured to also do the same as to reciprocate that and gave him pecks on the lips, which turned him on, apparently. Pecks, by the way. I didn't want to make out like animals as I knew better, and of course, because I was too young at the time. Our secret relationship and or slash situationship continued for maybe another week or three until a girl slid into my DMs one day, demanding me to break up with him because she already owned employ. Crazy cringe if you'd ask me, but I was too nice to fight back, so I just talked to employ once and didn't really let him tell me his side of the story before just outright leaving. I did beg for him to come back twice or thrice, but nothing else after that since it was when I realized that this was definitely a form of grooming. And I was too dumb and stupid when I was younger, so my friends had to open my eyes to that. Uh, yeah, I was groomed. Um, Fast forward to July of 2026. I just turned 16 on July 2, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of still yearning for that connection with Employ. It just so happened that he also was trying to talk to me through my YouTube comments, so I gave it a chance and reached out to him as well. We started reconnecting, and almost immediately, again, we were in another relationship without even any initiatives until he talked to his mom while we were both on a call about me. Even went as far as referring to me as his boyfriend this time with no denial, which in its own is already him coming out to his mom because before we reconnected, he was pretty much closeted. Uh, Hell, I don't even know if this man's into boys at all. He could be eating pussy left and right for all I care. Um, our connection only our reconnection only lasted for 2 weeks in total. Mostly because Employ was too caught up in his emotions, and every time I brought up problems from 2 years ago, he'd snap at me. He'd question why I was always so distrusting with him, and I did try telling him every damn time we argued that it was because he already two-timed me once with that girl from 2 years ago, and I can't just risk myself experiencing that again because he already ruined me once, and God knows just how much I've cried myself to sleep for like a month straight after leaving him back in 2024. And I don't know, I was fighting with my morals the entire time we were reconnecting because deep down I'm I know myself that I know to myself that reconnecting with him is very bad. He just turned he was like he's 18 right now and I'm 16. Very bad. Age gap, I know. I'm sorry. That's a very bad age gap. Okay, anyway. Um, he kept complaining about how I'm so insufferable when it comes to asking for reassurance. But the thing is, my mom has told me countless times already to be cautious, to make sure that I'm choosing the right decision by going back with him. And most importantly, because his friends are already hinting at me that he'd only end up playing me all over again. Because guess what? All his friends are failed relationships, and they were scared he'd end up doing the same shit, pulling the same shit on me. Because um employee is very abusive mentally, not physically, okay? Like mentally and emotionally. And he ended up playing with, let's say, a dozen of girls, a dozen of girls, once at a time, one at that, oh fuck, one at a time. I'd say I'm not sure about that, but it's just a hunch because um I heard that when we first started seeing each other back in 2024, he was already seeing five other girls, I think. and and like his friends warning me about something like that possibly happening again this time around scared me so fucking hard because just last year he was in a relationship with someone else and he ended up keeping that girl a secret to the entire world but like except the girl's inner friends. So of course given that their relationship was a secret, he was pretty much free to roam around and hit up on other girls while he's in a relationship with the other girl I've mentioned. And that was just not even a year ago. Not that wasn't even a year ago. It hasn't even been a year since that happened. So I was scared he's gonna do the same shit on me. He's gonna pull the same shit on me. Uh, he assured me countless of times that he's a changed man. But in reality, he isn't. Because he's not a changed man if he also cheated on the girl he was dating half a year ago. Like over half a year ago. So I didn't tell him that I know a part of a fracture of what happened, of what went down in his past relationship before he got back with me. Because I didn't want to sour his mood. And because I wanted to be respectful. But deep down, I know that was a red flag. Especially if his friends are fucking hinting at me that he'd end up playing me the same way he played with his ex-girlfriend. Especially because I'm a gay dude. I'm a guy. We're both boys. Like, it already hurts that I'm disrespecting 13-year-old Sarv Addy's tears he wasted over this man. But it definitely hurts more to think that he was love bombing me while he was love bombing me thinking I won, thinking I hit the jackpot with like a really kind-hearted nerdy man. But in reality, I didn't. That was just a facade he put up just so I'd trust him again, the same way I did when we were younger. Okay. Okay, this video is very messy, is very unorganized, which you can't really blame me for because I'm here breaking down, trying to open up to my own problems to the world who probably wouldn't even care about how I feel, how I felt the entire time I was enduring his shit. And this man is very passionate about femboys. Like, I'm not. I am not very feminine, and that made me felt so pressured about making him feel satisfied about me, about him making me about him about I was worried he'd stop loving me because I wasn't feminine enough for him. So I'd always ask him, would you love me if I was a girl? Would you love me more if I was a girl? Do I have to be a girl just so you'd fight for me? Because he wasn't even fighting for me, and this was a second chance already. This was a second chance already, but it felt like I was eager for this, for whatever this was. And not once did he ever try asking me if I was okay every time we argued, every time he saw me crying, every time he heard me crying. He never once asked me if I was okay. It was always him, his fragile masculinity, and his declining mental health, which I do get. I tried understanding him. I tried understanding him, but every time I tried helping him, he made it seem like I was being I was going overboard with being protective of him. But he gave me reasons to. And like now that I'm looking back, I feel like he hated me mostly because I treated him like I was his mom. Like I was a mom and he was my son. Like I was that protective of him, but he did give me reasons to. And every time I overthinked, he'd oftenly taunt me just so he could get a reaction out of me and then complain after. That's like that pisses me off so much. I can't even lie. Because I was here giving my heart out and he was just playing it off as some joke, as something that's not serious and isn't worthy of talking about properly. And it reached to a point where um our relationship was already very unstable. This was after he came over to my place. He came over to my place and we watched the Heartstopper movie that came out on July 17th last month. And I couldn't help but compare ourselves to Charlie and Nick. Because like even he couldn't help but compare us to both the characters. And when we were arguing, I was like, Nick and Charlie fought hard for each other, even with, even though they both have unstable mental health. Why can't that be real life? And he was like, "Are we them?" I only compared us two to both the characters I because I thought you felt relatable to the movie. To the characters, to their plot. I'm like so mad. I resent him so fucking much. I poured my heart out for him. I worshipped the ground he walked on. And he gave he gave back nothing. He returned nothing. Like every time we argued, I found out just recently that every time we argued, every time he apologized to me and fixed things between the two of us, he'd backstab me. He'd talk shit behind my back to his friends. Tell them about how insufferably clingy I am, even though the only times I was ever talkative with him was when we were arguing about him complaining about me needing reassurance about the shit he did before that I'm worried about that he'll do again a second time. Because my guts, my intuition don't lie. I have very strong intuition. And I was pretty much fighting with my brain. My heart was pretty much fighting against my own brain at that time because I was so torn between just ghosting him and staying because I really did love him. He was my first boyfriend. He was my first and everything related to romance, and he was my dream man. uh, and every time he talked shit about me behind my back to his friends, he'd always make sure it'll be vague, just so they wouldn't know that he was the villain in the story. That just so they wouldn't know that I was innocent, that I wasn't doing anything inherently bad. I mean, I know myself. I know to myself that me constantly overthinking is a huge red flag. But he really can't blame me anymore because this already happened once before. So I'm scared that this will happen again. But like he doesn't understand that. So I'm always scared that he'll pull the same shit over and over again. Because well, every time we argued, I'd vent I'd vent to his friends, to his best friend. But like at the same time I also know that he definitely keeps secrets from his best friend because come on guys. Would you really tell all your ugly to your friends? Because personally I wouldn't. I mean, I would if I'm close enough with them, but generally I wouldn't. And I already and yeah. So I vented to his best friend. And then in return, his best friend told me stuff about employ that she thinks I'd need to know. um he was a disgusting person. He's a disgusting individual. That's the only thing I'll say about whatever she told me. And I still stuck with him because um every time I vented to his friend, she would always talk to employee, talk him out and tell him and tell employee to like talk to me properly, take me seriously. And employee would always reply to her berating that employee loves me, employee loves me, and that he's scared to lose me, yaba 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 do. But at the same time, he can't even say those nice shit about me on my face. He's too scared to do that, and he only has the guts to tell that to his friends and not me. So I clung hard. I was waiting for him to tell me he loved me, to tell me he was scared to lose me. But that never happened because he was always too mad at me. And I knew that he was very scared that his friends would know that he's this aggressive. So I'd always talk to them. I'd always talk to his friends, ask them if he's usually like this because I really did want to understand him at that time. And um yeah, because after he brought me up to his mom, he brought up the idea of adoption. I don't know if he was serious about that, but babe, we're children, we're teenagers. But even so, if we lasted long enough for like adoption to even be possible, I I would have agreed. I would have settled with him. That's how much I loved him. That's how stupid I am when it comes to love. Like I was honestly willing to quit my dreams of becoming a singer because I really loved him and I wanted to satisfy him that I was willing to give him my virginity. It never happened because I feel like he's scared to have sex with me since yeah, I'm a minor and he's 18. Um but yeah, since I'm stupid, I thought and because he's hypersexual too, I thought that sex was the only way for him to be satisfied with me. And especially since he was my first boyfriend, and I'm scared he'd do time me, he'd play me again. I I really wanted him to feel good. I wanted, and because he was turned on. We made out we made out every time Nick and Charlie kissed on screen while we were watching the Heartstopper movie. Like, I initiated the kisses. I only wanted to peck him at first, but he already had his tongue out and he slipped it into my mouth. So I just rode along and kissed him back, and then it became it turned into a full-on make-out session. I deeply regretted that because I should have reserved that moment for someone who actually loved me, for all um for someone who loved all of me, for someone who'd stick around when I feel unsure, who'd stick around when I'm starting to like lose myself and I'm starting to feel very detached. But I still kissed him though. I did enjoy it at first. But now that I'm looking back at it, I think it's disgusting. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the juicier side of things. Um about how Carl, that's employee's real name, broke up with me and other experiences people have had with him throughout the years. Because these are some disturbing stuff, guys. These are very disturbing. um, I um, we Carl and I by this point have already been arguing for about a week, and it reached to a point where he resented me because he thinks I'm always uncertain, but the thing is, he gives me reasons to be uncertain. And I don't know. He gives me very vague answers whenever I ask him about the cheating scandals and stuff, the issues that we both faced a few years back. And that genuinely ticked me off because why are you giving me vague answers? Why can't you just take me seriously? So I was worried and stuff. And then I was very scared to talk to him every time because I know he'd snap at me. So I opted out to messaging him probably every few hours about my problems. And I have no idea that he'll take that very seriously and he'd snap at me big time. He came back to me um a night a day later. He was avoiding me for like a whole day because he was so pissed off and didn't want to talk to me at all. He said that himself. Um he was so mad because I apparently I'm apparently a bad influence to his friends because I um vented out to them, blah 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 blah, and then he was so mad because I can't look at him in a different light compared to the one I have of him from 2 years ago. So he was trying to force me to just trust him blindly again by by being aggressive with me. Okay, I'll just let the screenshots speak for themselves. Yeah. Um because there are much other serious stuff we need to talk about employee. He's a predator. He's a groomer. I do not. I won't hesitate to say that because that man is turning 19 this year, and aside from being a chronicle cheater who um takes on dozens of women at a time, um he also online dates, probably on Roblox. I don't know, but I found out from his friend that he's been hitting on another guy while we were together, and it's a fuck ass femboy he met on Roblox. That's very pathetic of him, but I don't know. I can I don't blame the guy he was flirting with, or he was hitting with, or he was seeing, because and aside from from my own history with Carl, I also have other history from several people that have helped me get through um this semi healing phase um with Carl. Uh um I wasn't the only person, the underage person he victimized. Other people he victimized were also 13, 14 at the time when they started seeing each other, which was around the same time he was seeing me. So like there's like, I don't know, three other people aside from the girl who slid into my DM, so that makes four. I wonder how many more people he's been hitting with um in 2024. Um Carl is um pathological liar, and he keeps all his relationship a secret because he doesn't want any of his chicks, bitches, to find out and meet one another because he knows that they'll plot against him. I feel like that's what's going on here. That's why he's also very scared of his friends turning against him because of me. Um, okay, this man has already been exposed before for being a groomer, and he hadn't learned his lesson. So I'm here. I want to speak up about him, even though if you haven't noticed yet, I'm struggling with speaking because I this is my first time speaking for this long, like probably 30 minutes straight at this point. And like I couldn't help but break down in the middle of recording because I really did love him. Yeah. Uh, fuck. Um he's probably cheated on girls a lot of times because again, he dates people, dozens of people one at a time. He did promise me last month that he's a changed man and that he's not like that anymore, but my intuition says otherwise. And I guess, in a way, my intuition was correct because, again, I found out that there was this femboy he was cheating on me with in front of his friends with "I love yous" on Roblox of all places, on Discord. I don't know, like, I don't know if this guy is still with him because I've confronted this guy, this femboy he cheated on me with already. I just hope he listened to me and has distanced himself because he's also 16 years old just like me. And I don't want him to be victimized. And I'm posting this because I don't want more children to be victimized by Carl or Employ. Okay? He mostly hangs around Gakuran on Roblox. Oh, Gakuran. I feel like Gakuran is filled with just overall weird people, I'd say. Like, not everyone in that game is weird, okay? My friends and I also play Gakuran, but I'd say half of the fandom is filled with people with poor, squammy gunner mindsets that I can't help but be weirded out with. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm fumbling over my words, but guys, don't interact with him. Don't interact with him, okay? He okay. So he'd always jerk off and call. I'd say. Ugh. Because like I don't know if he wants to prove to his friends that he's jerking off or something, but he did that to me once. Like I called him, I rung his phone because I wanted to play Roblox with him, but he picked up the phone and told me that he was jerking off. I thought he was joking, so I just laughed it off and stuff. But he was actually serious about it. He was moaning my name. And guess what? All of his friends, his past situationships, his past relationships have experience with him jerking off on call. How shameless do you have to be like be able to pull something off like this? It's very fucking disgusting. I'd say his worst mistake in all of this is introducing his relationships to one another, labeling them as as his friends, just so none of them would suspect a thing. But the thing is, once both parties befriend each other, they'd be able to open up to one another about their experiences with Carl, which is very bad for him. This that's all I've got. That's all I have to say. If you guys don't want to get groomed, please stay away from this guy. This is his Roblox. This is his Instagram, and this is his TikTok. He doesn't post in it anyway. Um, yeah.